This is TWiT.
I have to say, I had a delightful experience. I was reading I was reading this piece that might as well just be our time's Iliad. It was this epic piece about traversing and understanding Amazon Go grocery store. And I'm excited to have our own version of Homer here today.
Boots on the ground.
Sam Miskovich of Ars Technica is here to walk us through his walkthrough of Amazon Go grocery store. Hello, Sam.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I definitely feel like the Homer of our time as I strip half naked inside of an Amazon grocery store's bathroom. Yes.
It looks amazing. So happy to have you here to talk about this. I mean, I want to, people might be suspicious. They might be a little bit unsure, but you have credentials, my friend, because you have gone to every Amazon thing, it seems, that's existed. So can you lay down your credentials? What other Amazon events and locales have you traversed?
Well, yeah. So I'm the only Ars Technica staffer based in Seattle, Washington, which is Amazon's headquarters city. And this is kind of where they grok out more of their real life projects. I've yet to see any drones flying around the city, but they started a gig economy program for delivery drivers. And so I drove and delivered dog food for people with the very pilot of that program. I went to the very first Amazon brick and mortar bookstore, which everyone thought was hilarious because we all thought the site kind of put brick and mortar stores out of business years ago. And then the very first Amazon Go grocery concept, which was more of a convenience store 7-Eleven style, I tested that out 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago to the day, where the concept was you walk in, you identify yourself using an app and a smartphone, and you just grab whatever you want and leave with no checkout, no confirming a purchase, while a huge array of cameras watch you shop and itemize everything you take, make sure that they don't count whatever you put back, and then there's a receipt that pops up maybe an hour later that says this is what you took and this is how much it costs. And there's prices everywhere. They're not surprising you where you just grab things and go, oh wow, how much did that cost? And sure enough, this has come back after putting out a bunch of other smaller Amazon Go stores throughout the nation. And I can't remember if there are any international ones, but I know New York has one, Chicago has one. And now in Seattle, they've come up with Amazon Go Grocery. Same idea, bigger concept, meaning it's not just sort of grab and go stuff. It's not obvious boxed things and very clear and repeatable labels. Now they have produce. They've got kale. They've got oranges. They've got bananas, which may not necessarily be easy to track with the camera the way you might expect a box of Rice Krispies would work. So I hear about this and immediately I tried to cause trouble.
Yes, and I do want to get to that trouble in a moment. But first, I think some folks might not be. You explained a little bit about the technology, but there are different systems out there. I remember when I was visiting a hotel and you could pull something out of this shelf and there was a sort of weighted plate. And upon doing so and closing the door, then it would know what item you took. How does Amazon's work? Because it's my understanding that there are no pressure plates on shelves and things here.
There might be some sort of pressure plate system. The thing is, we don't know 100% because Amazon doesn't want to tell us exactly its proprietary system. But it's not quite like a mini bar. The idea is you look up and if you're watching the web feed of this, you're seeing some of the photos I took of this insane array of what appear to be RGB and infrared sensors. There's all these little boxes and they each have two visible little slivers. And when I'm using a smartphone camera, I can see the little infrared dinging of a light on those, watching your every move. The idea is when you go into the store and you tap your identification with a smartphone on a kiosk, it sort of scans you. I don't know if it's a face check or a clothing check or what it's looking for, but it's sort of creating a profile of who you are compared to all the other dozens of people in the store at the same time. And it watches you and it watches you and it watches you while you are grabbing things. So it's also paying attention to all the items. So it's not the cameras are watching you, but it's also watching all of the different boxes and produce and whatever else. So you can grab stuff, go back, put it back, grab another one, put it back, juggle and go crazy. And the pitch is it'll just work. It will know what you did and did not take.
The only place in theory it seems to not be watching you is the bathroom, and
that's where all the action happens.
That's where all the action happens. That's part of the way you nabbed that nanner. So can you talk a little bit about your Super Sleuth experience to sort of kind of walk away with a banana?
Sure. I mean, the idea being, as a tech site, we would love for Amazon to call us and say, this is the breakdown. This is what we did in our first wave of stores. Here's what we changed in our second wave. We don't get that luxury. So instead, I have to go in like a jackass and just act like a fool and figure out what I can do to trick the system. My first idea was, with produce having a bunch of different shapes or things are bundled together, what can I grab multiple handfuls of, juggle around, put stuff behind my back, and so on in order to trick it. Maybe it'll think I grabbed too many bananas, or maybe I could steal a banana or something like that. And at one point, I managed in all of my juggling to just wedge a banana between my back and my backpack and then put things back. And I'm like, maybe I got the one banana. And as I look around, I go, wait a second, this place, unlike the other stores, has a bathroom. I hadn't seen a bathroom at any other location. And even though there's a bunch of cameras near the bathroom to see who's going in and going out, there's nothing inside the bathroom that I know of. I didn't take photos inside the bathroom because I'm not Dr. Disrespect. That's a Twitch joke. But once I was in there and I put the banana in my backpack, I thought, wait, I've got other clothes. I switched out my top, put on a jacket, took the backpack and held it onto my stomach, and took the sunglasses that were on top of my head and put them in my bag. So that's 4 different kind of data points that I thought, maybe that'll do it. And what happened was, everything I'd picked up and juggled and done like crazy up till that point, it had tracked. I did not steal that one banana. However, from that point on, I just started openly just taking stuff like a normal person. I even spoke to an Amazon representative on my way out who I'd noticed I was a member of the press with a camera. And she's like, what'd you get? I said, I got some fancy cookies. She's like, oh. And when I left, it took 4 hours for them to process my visit.
Wow.
It said that I was there for 2 hours and 30 minutes, even though I was only there 20 minutes. And then it gave me a bill. It was only the 2 items from before the bathroom. Meaning, as far as Amazon's cameras were concerned, I shopped, went to the bathroom, and died. And instead of calling the police, they billed me for about 67 cents of produce.
Well, you know, 67 cents seems like not very much, but even the rich will tell you, like, being stingy with your money, like accounting for everything, that's the secret.
Look,
so,
he walked away
funny
with some
about that
fancy
67
cookies.
The 67 cents is funny because that includes an avocado that I didn't actually take.
Oh.
There's a little shelf when you go to the bathroom that says leave merchandise here. So, because you're hygienic, you don't want to bring in your food into the bathroom, which is fair.
Yes,
I left an avocado on that shelf, and as Amazon's app warns you, there's a lot of rules, and I put them in the article. That once you take something, if you don't put it back, you get charged for it. And I didn't want to be that jerk who just like started putting things in the wrong place to see how the cameras would go with that. I'm sure that's its own headache for them to deal with. But I don't like torturing actual retail employees.
Right.
Even though there's no checkout aisle, there are a lot of people around the store asking how you're doing and having a real smiling face about, the end of the retail workforce. So but the avocado, it got charged for. And I have an option. I can go on the app and ask for a refund on that 49-cent avocado, which is a ridiculous price, and that's its own conversation. I ate that cost. That's fine.
Yeah, so that was actually my next question. You mentioned there are people in the store. What are I imagine there were at one point job listings. I don't know if you had a chance to learn about that. What are the positions that are available in the store? What are folks doing? Because I'm going, how does that raw meat make it onto the shelves? How do those veggies get there? What's going on? Is there a bot doing this?
The previous Amazon Go stores I've been to have included open windows that show kitchen staff because they have sort of ready-made meals at those. And I think Amazon wants you to know that there's a perfectly kind, happy person working on that stuff. This store has all kinds of blacked out windows all around. And I did a lap around the building and saw essentially just a giant warehouse of brought in food. It just looks like a grocery store in terms of stock constantly being brought in, because like any other grocery store, you don't like as a customer going up and seeing a depleted section. My guess is there's just people constantly filling in those bins. I mean, they've got a whole pastry shelf with donuts on it that was filled to the brim and constantly looking attractive. So I just assume it's normal grocery stocking as opposed to there's greeters, people asking how you're doing. There's people bringing out produce. There's one person who mans the liquor, beer, and wine section because you have to have an ID checked at that point. The robots haven't figured that out. They don't scan your face to check your age. So you go up to that person, they check your ID, and then cameras watch you buy beer, wine, and liquor.
Gotcha. Now, does anything have any special labeling on it? Are we looking at any sort of tracking points or QR codes, or are the systems just being smart on their own and going, I know that's a lemon, and I can follow that lemon from point A to point Z? How do the cameras, lock onto things?
That was my question in 2018 because I grabbed Coke cans and I thought maybe it's got a special code or some sort of thing. And then I took the Coke can I had bought at that point, went down the block, got another one. They're the exact same labeling. The idea is that the camera is figuring out just enough information about that object to know what it is, where it is in the store, that whatever triangulation it's doing is not because of RFID codes. You're not using your phone to scan anything. You keep your phone in your pocket. Once you check in on the little kiosk at the beginning, that's it for your work. The cameras are apparently doing everything else. And if there's a bunch of pressure plates around, I feel like that's more complicated, honestly, than having the camera system watch stuff because when you're picking up and putting down, especially with bananas, like how do you get the exact weight of every single they even have watermelons. Like how do you get that weight kind of perfectly balanced out? I think honestly they want it to be the kind of system that you can put into any store and then Amazon can watch all of that retail data come in and out. I think that's what's lucrative for them, is controlling the data pipeline of any retail experience for their own study and to give to other shops.
I mean, when you think about the systems that we have in place that are developing so rapidly around things like facial recognition, that systems are so capable of looking at a view of someone, that might not be right up on the screen, might be a little bit further away, but to use very certain data points to triangulate and figure out exactly who that person is. And then you think about the items in a grocery store. I have to imagine a box of Golden Grams is pretty darn easy to identify to a camera that is just wildly, pointed around the entire depths of the store, identifying all these objects. So object identification in this age of artificial intelligence and feeding it hundreds of thousands of samples, as the test case in order to make it smart. Like I'm sure that's part of the secret sauce that Amazon has going for it here.
I would say every retail chain in the world wants as much data about your shopping experience as possible. Amazon watches every single thing you do. You look at those URLs when you click around the internet about to buy something. I used to work at Amazon a mazillion years ago. That's another story. Those URLs are just chock full of information, let alone the tracking cookies. That's just the digital side. Yeah. Now imagine you're a retailer and you can see what people look at, how long they pause, whether they pick the thing up, look at it, and then put it back. Yeah. What if you change the price in an hour? And then how does that change the use? What if you've got that data about how people go into the healthcare, medicine, birth control aisles and go from that point? Like the amount of crazy data and how that can be traded around makes me a little insane. But I do think it's worth pointing out because there's no regulation. Nobody is looking at this and saying this is important for us to look at year by year by year, see how that data is being used, bought, sold, traded. And a store like this brings that to the forefront because it's not necessarily new. Other chains are doing this, and Amazon's just kind of ramping up. The loyalty card is turning into the crazy camera system.
Yeah, right. Well, I feel like we talked about this not too long ago. Your face is becoming your loyalty card, right? Yeah. It's in many ways.
Well, so there was a question in the chat room, and I do want to ask this. I know you explain it in the article, but I think it's important for people to note. This is a very sort of high-tech experience, and they were asking, do you have to have your phone in order to get into the store?
In New York City, there is a way to go in with a cash-only customer because of New York law. Nothing like that is apparent in the Seattle store. They may have that sort of system available for customers to access. I don't know, but the default is that you are told, get your phone out, install the app, add your Amazon credentials, make sure there's a valid payment option, and then tap that and go in. And that is a very, I would say, an anti-consumer sort of thing to make a default. I assume that New York process is available at other stores, and there's people waiting at the door that you can ask and talk to about all of this stuff. I didn't go with any of that because I was trying to just show off the walk right through experience. But there's people talking about the different ways that you could or couldn't access this store. And yeah, that's a really big question. And I'm glad that New York regulators are at least talking about it and making sure that already there's some sort of check and balance to make sure this is not completely the only way that you shop from the future in the future going forward.
All right, so I have to ask you a question as we kind of round this out. If you had left and you hadn't been charged for that banana, what would you have done, Sam?
Oh, if you want to know, I am making a donation to the University District Food Bank in Seattle, Washington, to 5 times the amount of money that I pilfered from this Amazon Go store, because I'm good. I have a job. I don't need my choice.
You don't need an extra
going
banana.
into the store and doing this was not because I'm desperate for groceries, but because we like to explore Vomes at Ars Technica.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. I love it.